Susan, I am your lover. Prepare to be boarded.
We are talking My Alien Girlfriend. This one is directed and co-written by Sean King and stars Ken Breese, Maxine Reeves and Abigail Stanton. This one not to be confused with the similar titled Chinese drama. And I guess you want to say it has a passing resemblance to the kind of Dan Aykroyd and King Basinger movie, My Stepmother is an Alien. So the story of this one is a low-budget indie sci-fi comedy. We have this kind of schlubby guy, and he does a kind of like Star Wars podcast with his kind of best friend. And in the context of this movie, it's quite a big hit, and he gets, a reasonable amount of money for it. And one fateful day, there seems to be some type of electrical storm in the back garden. This kind of coincides with his fiancée going out on her kind of bachelorette party, or hen do as you call it here in the UK. And apparently she's a bit of a ball break, a bit high maintenance. Anyway, this alien is apparently kind of zapped down in his garden, and initially he's in the form of some type of slimy green alien, although we never really get a properly good look at it, but sees kind of this poster of this science fiction movie with this kind of B-movie screen queen type actress, kind of morphs into her, a la the bounty hunters from the Critters movies, and then kind of is in the image of this kind of sexy blonde woman, and of course various misadventures and maybe even a little bit of romance is the rest of the movie. So let's talk, that's what works first of all with this movie. So this movie is, obviously a kind of a light-hearted romantic comedy, I guess you want to say, and is somewhat of a fish out of water comedy that we've seen, plenty of times before in various different kind of guises. The movie I feel does kind of do a good job of giving you a realistic kind of like nerdy character, if that makes sense. I almost feel like the people behind this are probably genuine kind of Star Wars nerds, and just the kind of name of their podcasts is kind of like a deep cut, if that makes sense, in regards to the kind of like the geek sort of culture and the kind of the way they are, the kind of our two podcasters and cast, for example. One of them is actually the writer of the movie, or the co-writer of the movie. Again, they kind of look like legitimately kind of what you would expect from, middle-aged kind of Star Wars fans, if you see what I mean. So that was kind of quite good. And there are a couple of kind of fun pop movie culture references in regards to, in particular, kind of Star Wars, but a couple of other kind of movies the same. Our kind of sexy female alien is very sexy. So the movie is really doesn't have a lot of plot, if I'm honest. There are a couple of like mildly amusing jokes here. For example, this female alien kind of gets addicted to Red Bull, and it almost feels like Red Bull sponsored this movie because they say it so often. But nonetheless, it is, there are a couple of mildly kind of diverting kind of jokes here. And just a kind of a little bit of commentary on kind of a geek culture, I suppose. I actually quite liked the bride, to be honest with you. I thought her character was probably the most interesting character in the movie, if I'm honest. And she's kind of portrayed here to be somewhat unlikable. But I've got to be honest with you, it was kind of, we're kind of, to make her character unlikable and ultimately the kind of be the kind of like the bad guy, so to speak. We're told that she's cheating. But outside of that, she's kind of like a little bit harder on our kind of protagonist. But I've got to say, even though the movie paints her like she's meant to be unlikable, I've got to say I felt she was somewhat justified. But ultimately, the movie really doesn't have any plot. There's no real point to the alien being there. We're never really told why she's there. They never really do anything of consequence. There's not the title is even misleading because this alien never really even becomes a girlfriend. To be honest with you, the whole time that she's down there, he's kind of like doesn't get involved because obviously he's engaged. And let's be honest, she's an alien. We don't even know if it's male or female. Really, it just takes the form of a female. And you've got to think beyond that. One thing that bothered me a little bit, and I know this is a comedy, so it's not kind of being taken seriously so much, but the guy is painted as to be this kind of sci-fi nerd, and the fact that he finds this alien and he just doesn't react to it at all. He's just very nonchalant, matter of fact about it, and I felt more could have been mined there. I mean, it's kind of almost like an E.T. vibe, if that makes sense. But he just seems very kind of just matter of fact. He just kind of finds this alien sort of thing and doesn't really react to it anyway. And it would have been to me, it would have been a great kind of more kind of depth to it, but it's not there. The movie also spends an incredibly long amount of time on kind of tertiary characters. The wife's brother, for example, just sitting in the bar for a long periods of time and really not doing anything. And that's the whole problem with this film. It just doesn't really do anything. It just doesn't go anywhere. The actual idea with this alien coming down is so slight. It's just like a girl bit acting a little bit wacky, and then she just goes, and that's the end of the movie. So I feel this movie needed a little bit more to it. Now, I get it's a low budget ending. It cannot afford, special effects and stuff like that. But I felt that more could have been made with the actual plot to make it a little bit more interesting, because it so treads water for a lot of the time. The characters are kind of quite, they're charming, although, like I said, I feel that they are written poorly in certain aspects, at least some of them. And I feel some of the characters are a little misjudged. So it's kind of it's okay for a time waster, but it's not massively funny. It's not massively interesting. Overall, I give this one a 4 out of 10. It's not necessarily bad, but it's skippable, I would say. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time.